Folks, welcome to Movie News Monday, where every Monday we sit down and we look at the news of the week in the world of entertainment. We're talking movies, television, MCU, DCU, all the U's. We're going to be talking about everything that's going on. And the first thing that we need to talk about is this really unfortunately unsurprising situation with Elio. Pixar's Elio just premiered this weekend, and it just had the worst box office debut in Pixar history. Guys, this is unfortunately exactly what we have been talking about for far too long. People are clamoring for original movies, and when massive studios like Disney, like Pixar, make original movies, nobody shows up. It happened with Elio. It happened with The Lost World. It happened with Tomorrowland. I still don't forgive y'all for Tomorrowland. I loved that movie. But folks are not showing up for these movies. And regardless of how hard people keep asking for more original content from these major studios, this is why they get nervous. I still haven't seen Strange Worlds, if I'm being completely honest with you. Elio's was up against the new How to Train Your Dragon remake, which was hard. But man, if that wasn't even more of an indication, Elio going up against the How to Train Your Dragon remake is just such a slap to the face of the current state of the industry that Disney, an original Disney Pixar movie, got beat out by DreamWorks' first live-action remake of their content. So disappointing. So disappointing. And you know, that's why we have situations where we're getting another Toy Story, and we got another Cars movie, and they're making another Incredibles film, because those are the properties that people keep showing up for, not this original material. Now, let me put on my devil's advocate cap here for a second. The problem here might not be the fact that it's an original movie, and I'm willing to bet money that that's exactly the case. The problem might just be the type of original movies that Pixar is doing. This movie looks cute. I have no interest in going to see it. I have no interest in what the story is. Like, it's a little boy who is in charge of presenting world to the world to the universe. Like, what's it? I don't know. It's a confusing premise. It's not super motivating. The characters are, hard to get behind, these weird little alien dudes. And Disney, I think, really, exactly like what Chad is saying here, Disney really, I think, tarnished the brand. I think Disney spent way too much time shoveling Pixar content into Disney Plus, and that's probably Bob Chapek's fault, along with the pandemic, and really diluted the brand. And so films like Onward, films like Luca, those type of movies were peddled away into Disney Plus to backfill that catalog, and didn't give Pixar the same level of, trust for their original movies. Soul was the other one. I was trying to remember. I knew there was one more. And so, that's why now we have situations where Toy Story and some of these other films are going to be the driving force behind what happens with the future of the franchise. And so this news just came out, which is kind of fun. A kid's tablet, LilyPad, is going to be the villain in Toy Story 5. This is incredible. I actually love this as an idea, and, not to say it's original by any means, but seeing as this is Toy Story 5, but this is very creative, and I think has the opportunity to say something. I think any parent or anyone thinking about becoming a parent right now is struggling with the idea of raising a child in a post internet, post screens world. today I saw a very tired father at like 5 o'clock who had 2 rowdy kids with him and a small toddler. And he was like, okay, we gotta go. And the toddler starts screaming, and he just picks her up and hands her an iPad. Funny enough, one that looked a lot like this, because it was in a little green case too. And she stopped screaming. And look, I get it. You know, he's got 2 young boys who are running around. This toddler's screaming. It's the end of the day. He's probably exhausted. There's a lot of things going on in the world. I get it. I get being tired and just wanting to like dopamine rush your children. But, you know, there's a lot of science and a lot of data out there about what screen time does to kids. And, you know, is a tablet a toy, or is it a tool, or what is it? I think it could be very fascinating to see how Toy Story tackles that. It is not lost on me that Woody is not present in this concept art, and I have a strong inclination that Woody is not going to be present in this film, and that makes me very sad because I love Woody. Even though I recently rewatched the first Toy Story movie, and bro is a villain. Woody is kind of a bad person. You know, it may not be all a lost cause for Disney animation. Jared Bush did do an interview where he teased that the 2D artists at Disney are doing some amazing things. Could this be a reference to something going on at the parks? Could this be a reference to streaming, to television, to a original film? Who knows? Disney is such a massive brand that so many of these different things are possible. But maybe we can expect some 2D animated work from Disney coming soon. And who knows? I mean, we live in such an age now where animated movies have taken such a broad approach and so many different shapes and forms that maybe a return to form for Disney might be the secret to making things a little bit better. Why not at this point? Why not try? If DreamWorks can get away with making live action remakes, why can't Disney go back to just making 2D animated films? It was the best time in their brand. Moving on, another sad day for semi-original content here. Josh Cooley has confirmed that Paramount has no plans for Transformers 1 sequel. This is actually super disappointing. I am not a massive Transformers fan. I was probably about as much of a fan as anyone who grew up with a Transformers animated series as a child. I had the toys. I loved the 2008 movie when I first saw it, and that franchise has a special place in my heart of being like one of the most absurd what about if isms. But Transformers 1 was a refreshingly like heartfelt and interesting take on the characters. It left it all on the Transformers home planet. The characters' origins were really fun and really original to me. I had never seen something like that before. The animation was beautiful. It didn't take itself too seriously, but also like allowed itself to really have something to say. You know, it was about class struggle. It was about radicalization, and how people that have similar experiences could be shifted through their ideology by being given slightly different, responses to gaining power. It was really fascinating, and I remember they pitched it as the start of a trilogy, but it seems like, the box office just wasn't quite there, and an animated movie like this is really expensive to make, even though Transformers is an extremely successful toy line. Like we were just talking about, kids are not buying physical toys as much anymore, and there's so many different options that if your movie isn't an absolute surefire hit, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be buying your toys. So Transformers 2, probably not going to be happening, which is really disappointing. R.I.P. Drink. I'll drink to you. I'll drink my non-alcoholic beer to you. Moving on. We are officially in the early stages of the director's race for the next James Bond movies. it feels almost surreal to me, even though I've grown up through like 3 or 4 different James Bonds at this point. Daniel Craig was just such, the Sam Mendes, Daniel Craig, like all those films were really just like generation defining for that genre, especially with, what happened with the James Bond franchise is it kind of really diluted itself, and ultimately we can blame Austin Powers for giving us Daniel Craig's James Bond, because when a parody spy movie about the James Bond movies was better than the James Bond movies that took themselves too seriously, they were cooked. So a refreshing new start with Casino Royale and everything that followed. It was a really successful franchise. It kind of had its ups and downs, both critically and in the box office. Famously, the second movie, Quantum of Solace, was filmed during the 2008 writer's strike, and you can tell. But all of that to say, we are now at a point where Amazon's MGM has purchased the rights to the James Bond franchise, and they are actively developing the next James Bond movie. So there's a couple directors in the mix: Edward Berger, Denis Villeneuve, Edgar Wright, Jonathan Nolan, and Paul King. For me, honestly, I love Denis, I love Edgar Wright, but Jonathan Nolan is a really interesting choice for me. Jonathan Nolan is, of course, you can imagine, Christopher Nolan's sibling. But Jonathan Nolan worked on the Westworld series. He's worked on a lot of really successful, sort of very big brainy type dramatic content, but also featuring some action. Jonathan Nolan is also a writing partner with his wife, and they've done some really good work together as writers. So, I'm very interested to see what they could come up with. Lisa Joy, I was looking it up here on the side. I wanted to make sure I remembered her name. I think that's my pick out of this list. Edgar Wright would make a very fun James Bond movie, a very different James Bond movie. But I think that folks probably expect something similar to the Daniel Craig movies. I don't really know what type of energy they're looking for. Yeah, an Edgar Wright Bond would be crazy. But it's just like, if you make an Edgar Wright Bond movie, Edgar Wright needs to make all your Bond movies. You know what I mean? Like, Edgar Wright does not make a studio film. He makes an Edgar Wright film. That's why, famously, Edgar Wright was going to direct Ant-Man, and he did a lot of the action sequences from the first Ant-Man movie, most of the script from the first Ant-Man movie, and the style comes from Edgar Wright. But he ultimately dropped out of the film because Marvel was just doing too much, and he didn't want to be a part of that, system. So yeah, from this list, James Bond, I picked Jonathan Nolan, but I think that might feel too similar to the type of Bond movies that came out before. Or if you want to get weird with it, get Chris McQuarrie on the phone. Why not? James Bond should be like Mission Impossible movies. We just finished that franchise. Why not get Tom Cruise on the line? Have Tom Cruise... This is my wild thing. Have Tom Cruise produce and direct. I don't think he's ready to direct, but why not? Have him direct. Mission Impossible with James Bond. British Mission Impossible. British. Tom Cruise is a director. Hold on. Hey man, great work, great energy. When you're running, you need to... you just look too natural when you're running. Hey, great job, great energy. When you shot that guy and jumped over a burning car, you did great. But when you run, I need you to look like you're gonna fucking die if you don't run like me. Chris Stuckman's horror movie, Shelby Oates, comes out October 3rd in theaters. Neon has doubled the film's budget to add more gore and violence. do some reshoots. This is fun. Now, the reason this is news, and you might be thinking, okay, cool. Well, one, Neon. We love Neon because they are kind of the one of the other, like A24, one of the other smaller studios that is really making an impact in the filmmaking scene right now. Neon is fresh off the Best Picture Oscar with Sean Baker's movie Anora. Thank you, I got there myself. So Neon is a big contender in the space right now, but also Chris Stuckman is an online reviewer. Chris Stuckman's reviews on YouTube guided a lot of people, myself included, to the movie theaters back in the day. One of the OGs in terms of movie review YouTube channels, and he put his money where his mouth is, and he made a film. He made a horror film, and Neon liked it, and they bought it, and they pushed the budget up even higher so that they could do more with it. So super cool for Chris Stuckman, super cool for YouTube community, super cool for the indie film community. They're putting money into this movie, so they believe in it. A horror movie in October, in the age of the horror renaissance that we're currently in. That's great news. I can't wait to hear more about it, and hopefully we get a trailer soon. I don't know that we have one yet. Folks, the battle against AI continues. If you didn't see, I did not stream this past week, but I did make a video. If you didn't see it, it's on Shorts and Instagram and TikTok. But Disney and Universal are teaming up to battle Midjourney with a lawsuit for their AI image generation. And on that same vein, YouTube is finally fighting back against AI movie trailers. If you try to look up a movie trailer for any movie, you will be inundated in your algorithm with fake movie trailers generated by AI. Some of them pretty convincing, some of them not at all. Let's just do an experiment here. I'm gonna go to YouTube. I'm just gonna look up Spider-Man Brand New Day. And oh, here's the teaser trailer. Wow, there's Sadie Sink dancing and Doctor Doom. Oh my gosh. And what we're watching now is a AI movie trailer. Now they put concept 2026. But this is just a mix of existing footage and AI generated footage. Was that Sabrina Carpenter? So there's channels out there that exist that fully make their money off of faking trailers and using AI to do it. And it looks like YouTube is finally fighting back against that kind of rage bait, and not rage bait, clickbait. It creates rage. I know it's not real. I really believed it. This picture too. I mean, come on, Scarlet Witch. I thought she was dead. This is great news, but also, wow, Disney really has this lawsuit in the bag already, because look, this is AI generated and this looks exactly like all their IPs and all the actors. So crazy stuff. Good news. Hopefully that means that less of these AI movie trailer channels exist because they won't be able to monetize, and folks won't fall for it as much as they do. I don't know if y'all have been on Facebook recently. I go on there maybe once every 3 months just to, check in on those few friends that still use it because it's entertaining. But now the Facebook recommendation feed is so aggressive, especially if you're never on Facebook, because it's like, please stay, please click on some ads. And oh my God, everything's just AI. Facebook is fully the dead internet. It's AI generated movie posters, AI generated comments. It's all just, it is really just the dead internet. Facebook is keeping itself alive. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Harold and Kumar are getting another movie. John Hurwitz, Hayden Schlossberg, and Josh Held are closing in on a deal to write and direct. This is fun. I just love this. We need more comedies in the movie theater. I hope this is a theatrical movie. Things like this, things like Keke Palmer and SZA's One of Them Days getting a sequel, going to theaters, knowing that, the Wayans brothers are getting back together and we might have more scary movies coming to the theaters. We need more comedies in the movie theater. I love the horror renaissance we're in. We need more comedy movies in the movie theaters. All right, folks, moving on. This is the Marvel section of the show. So sip of our Tom Holland Beero as we get into some Marvel Studios news. Marvel Studios has added a movie to the slate. There is a movie coming December 15th, 2028. Now, this report came out, and shortly after, it was seemingly confirmed that Thunderbolt's director has been tapped for the X-Men movies. So I'm thinking that that's what's probably happening here. Jake Schreier, the director of Thunderbolts, had been rumored for quite some time to be Marvel Studios' top choice for an X-Men movie. It hasn't officially been announced, but it's all but been confirmed that Jake Schreier is going to be directing the X-Men, and we now have a random release date post Secret Wars. So is this Jake Schreier's X-Men movie? Maybe. I sure hope so. It's taken a long time to get here. We need to get an X-Men movie. It's crazy to think that we're 3 years away. Speaking of long time to get here, crazy to think that we're years and years away. Mahershala Ali, of course, with Jurassic World coming out, Mahershala Ali is in the film, and he was asked about Blade, and he just very coy and candidly said, "Call Marvel, I'm ready. Let them know I'm ready." Folks, I gotta imagine that Mahershala Ali is frustrated, if not just downright disappointed, with how hard it's been to get Blade up and going. He was announced as Blade years and years ago at Comic-Con. When was that announcement made? July 20th, 2019 at San Diego Comic-Con was when Mahershala Ali was announced. And we still don't have a movie. We have had like 4, 5, 6 directors cycle through. There's been multiple scripts. I just really hope they get this movie going, because there's so many cool possibilities, and they've set up so much already with the magic arm of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Blade just fits right in, y'all. He just pops right in there, and you have an Oscar winner as your lead, and you can't get a movie off the ground? That's crazy. That's crazy. I really hope for his sake that we get something going sooner rather than later. Extremely gut-wrenching, disappointing news here. Marvel Studios' Marvel Assembled is essentially canceled. They have no plans to continue releasing this. This is heartbreaking. Marvel Studios Assembled is like one of my favorite parts of Marvel movies coming to Disney Plus, is that the Assembled episode also comes out. What Assembled was essentially the equivalent of the DVD documentary that used to come out of how the movie was made. And because physical media basically doesn't exist anymore and everything's going to streaming now, these Assembled episodes were the only way to get insight into how the films were being made. And it seems that maybe they're not coming back, and that's heartbreaking. I really loved Assembled. I imagine that part of the reason that they're scaling back on this is because they're scaling back on production, and there's just such complicated productions happening right now. Even things like Ironheart, which premieres tomorrow, filmed years and years ago, and so much has changed, and there's so many reshoots and so many different incentives and strikes and everything that happened over the past few years. I'm sure they just haven't been able to successfully document and create the narrative of the making of the movie. But this is really disappointing, especially too because, it's insurmountable to imagine making a massive blockbuster like a Marvel movie, but these little documentaries were a fun glimpse into the behind the scenes of how it's made. And for anyone who cares about the story, who cares about the filmmakers, who's interested in becoming a filmmaker, it's such a great way to get a view into what that process is like. And it seems like we might not be getting that view anymore. I understand controlling the narrative. I understand controlling, the way that you present the story of how the film was made. But at the same time, to just not give us anything is just so sad. Come on, y'all. More assembled. Hashtag more assembled. Let's get a movement going. Folks, we deserve it. We'll see. I mean, hopefully this means that it's just assembled and not that they're stopping all behind the scenes documenting, because if I need to start buying DVDs again to watch these episodes, I guess I'm buying DVDs again. Moving on with more items in development, some insiders are reporting that this Vision Quest series will make Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans happy, at least to a small degree. Folks have been for a long time clamoring whether or not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is considered canon. Things get complicated. There's some multiverse stuff that happens. It's kind of wild. It's a fun show. I liked the show up until I stopped watching it. I think I stopped watching it around COVID years, so maybe the last season or two. There is an AI character in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it seems that Vision Quest is collecting all AI characters from all of Marvel, so maybe that's who it is. Speaking of things that'll maybe come back, reportedly Marvel Studios is back in talks with Jeremy Renner about Hawkeye Season 2. I really hope we get a Hawkeye Season 2. I really enjoyed Hawkeye Season 1. I really enjoyed the tone of the show. I think Haley Steinfeld is an incredible lead. She was so good as Kate Bishop. I miss seeing her as Kate Bishop. We got the tiniest little cameo of her in the post-credit scene of the Marvels. She's just so fun, and her character is so interesting, and the way that Hawkeye evolves throughout the show and his entire arc since he was introduced in the MCU has been so great. Let's make it another holiday. Hawkeye Season 2 is about Thanksgiving, Halloween, Arbor Day. I don't know. But it's fun. I really love this show. I really hope they do make a Season 2, and I hope that they both come back for it. And on that same train, it looks like Marvel Studios is looking to shift their focus in terms of their shows and their movies. Now, this is an insider report, so it might not be official, but folks are saying that it looks like the studio is looking to keep the more grounded street level stuff to the TV shows, and then do all the big major events in the movies, which ultimately is exactly the way that it should go. I see some late comments here. Marvel doesn't deserve Jeremy Renner, and he better get that bag. Absolutely. That's in reference to Jeremy Renner did do an interview where he talked about Season 2 of Hawkeye, where after his accident, he was offered half of what he was paid for Season 1, and he was just completely disrespected by that. And he specifically said it wasn't Marvel, it was basically the finance people. But hopefully him being public about that got that conversation going, and hopefully he does get that bag. Circling back though, this is cool and it does make sense, and ultimately I think that this benefits the issue that Marvel had even with the Netflix shows, and they were very self-aware about the Netflix shows even when they didn't have full control over Daredevil, Jessica Jones, all that Defenders saga, is that TV production moves really fast and film production is really slow, even though Marvel has basically turned it into a machine. And essentially the issue that they run into is that trying to plan for major events that happen in movies to affect the shows or vice versa can get very tricky. You know, you have shows like Ironheart that filmed 3 years ago that is just now coming out because things move around and schedules move around, or you have entire movies like No Way Home, which get shifted around, that was supposed to come out at one point versus another. So it can get very difficult when you try and tie them in directly like that. To leave a little bit more separation is just a much safer way to play it. That being said, if there's one movie that I wouldn't mind getting a little bit more street level, it would be the next Spider-Man movie. And folks, we have an incredible update for Spider-Man Brand New Day, the 4th installment of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. This is coming from Hollywood Reporter's Heat Vision. Boris Kitt reports that Jon Bernthal is joining Tom Holland in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, this is incredible for so many different reasons. So before we get too far into this article and talk about what this all means, celebratory sip of Tom Holland's Beero. Get your Beero, your non-alcoholic beer. It tastes like beer. It's pretty good. This is my least favorite flavor. I like the golden one better. So Jon Bernthal is joining Tom Holland's Spider-Man Brand New Day as the Punisher. This is a big deal in so many different levels. So let me start off with, first of all, the real world news. It's really fun because Tom Holland and Jon Bernthal auditioned for their respective roles at the same time. In fact, Tom Holland and Jon Bernthal helped each other audition. They were working on a project together around the same time that they were both, putting in for their respective roles, which is crazy to think about. It's been like 10 years since Tom Holland got announced. And so these are two characters that in the comics famously have a lot of interaction. And with the type of stories that we've had and the rights issues and difficulties that we've had, it was just kind of resigned that we would never see the Punisher and Spider-Man on screen together. Well, here we are 10 years later, and it's looking like this is exactly what's going to be happening. So outside of the real world and going into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is super exciting for a whole bunch of different reasons. First and foremost, the Punisher story arc right now has just kind of kicked open at the end of Daredevil Born Again. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but his involvement and the Punisher's involvement has a lot of greater implications for the streets of New York City. And him being a part of this movie really seems to imply that what's happening on the streets of New York City is going to impact Spider-Man. And folks have been begging for Spider-Man to go back to the streets. Spider-Man No Way Home was an incredible achievement, and the feeling of being in the theater for that movie, especially kind of coming off of COVID and not really having big movie theater movies for quite some time, incredible. And I have a special place in my heart for that movie. It is a comfort movie of mine, No Way Home. The multiverse stuff is just so big and so much. And prior to that, we had Spider-Man in Endgame and Infinity War. And then we had Spider-Man in Far From Home, where he's traveling around all of Europe. And there's this kind of multiverse subplot, but it's this whole other thing. It's been a really long time since we've had just Spider-Man swinging through New York City and like beating up criminals and taking care of the streets. That's what Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies were. That's what Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movies kind of were. There was a fair bit of that in there. And honestly, it's what Spider-Man's comics and cartoons and stories have always been. It's just him taking care of the streets. It's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man because he takes care of your neighborhood. And so Jon Bernthal and the Punisher being involved in Brand New Day is really promising for that. Does this mean Daredevil's going to make an appearance? Possibly. My assumption is we won't hear anything for sure until maybe Daredevil Born Again Season 2 has finished filming. Maybe. This article does also kind of slide in a fun confirmation in there that Zendaya and Jacob Batalon are both returning. So MJ and Ned are both going to be in this film. How substantial their roles are is still not confirmed. It will likely be smaller roles, especially given what happens at the end of No Way Home. And we do, of course, have Sadie Sink from Stranger Things returning. Call it now. Save this in your logs. Carly Cooper. I'm calling it. She's going to be playing Carly Cooper. And then, of course, we have the rumors recently that the Incredible Hulk is going to be in this film as well. Mark Ruffalo's Hulk. Who knows? What does this mean for Spider-Man? What does this mean that the story is going to be? Here is my official prediction for Spider-Man Brand New Day. At the end of No Way Home, the symbiote is left in the universe, in the MCU. I think the symbiote is going to be a key factor into introducing Mr. Negative. I think we might get the anti-Venom story arc in Brand New Day. I think that the Venom suit will likely affect Tom Holland's Peter Parker, and the symbiote suit will exemplify the negative feelings that he's having about being alone. And I think that the Punisher and Daredevil are both going to be in the film. This is kind of wish listing here. And my guess is that they are going to be essentially the angel and the devil on his shoulder, pun fully intended, with Punisher and Daredevil, on keeping him focused on what he needs to do. Because maybe he'll be angry and he'll be like, I can kill Mr. Negative and get this whole thing over with. And the Punisher's like, damn right, Red, that's what you gotta do. And Daredevil will be like, Spider-Man, no, you're a hero. You mean this, you're a symbol, blah, blah, blah. That's just my guess. Marvel, hey, I got my phone right here. I'm waiting for the call. In either case, I'm super excited. This movie feels like it's going to be very big, but I hope it's very big on a grounded scale. I don't need the multiverse. I don't need time travel. I don't need gratuitous cameos. But if we can use the right chess pieces, the right characters here, and really get something fun out of it, that's going to be super great. That's what I'm excited for. So we'll see. What do you guys think? What do you think happens in Spider-Man? As I drink my Biro, my Tom Holland Biro. Wow, I love Peter Parker. I'm gonna marry Zendaya one day. How'd I do? You know what's weird? This tastes better warmer. It's still not my favorite flavor, but it does taste better warmer. Something about like the citrusy. Oh god, I just spilled it on my keyboard. Oh no, oh. If you want to watch any other content of mine, I am on YouTube at Jupigorg. You can also follow me on TikTok and Instagram. I like to post recaps and short videos of streams, and also that's where I announce my streams. So if I'm ever doing a bonus stream or you want to know when I'm going live, follow me in all those other places. Really appreciate y'all stopping by and having some fun with me. A lot of interesting things going on in the world right now, but entertainment, film, and TV, it's still out there, still the same, still bringing us a lot of joy. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope you go out there and watch some movies. All right, take it easy, y'all. Good night.